Stats SA data shows that annual consumer inflation rose by 3.2% in February year on year, the same rate of increase recorded for January. The main contributors to the annual 3.2% increase in February were housing and utilities, food and non-alcoholic beverages, as well as restaurants and accommodation services. Mervyn is Program Co-ordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group. Thank you so much, Mervyn, for joining us. So while the headline inflation number remained unchanged, it does appear that food and non-alcoholic beverages ticked up in February, rising by 2.8% on an annual basis, while in January that figure was 2.3%. We know that your study of people's baskets, that is their grocery baskets, tends to be more granular in nature, but does the latest increase tally with what you've been observing in terms of trends?
So good morning, and good morning to all the viewers. Yes, so what we are seeing is we're seeing slight upticks in food inflation. The numbers between Stats SA and, of course, our basket differs, but the trends are similar. We have seen about a 0.7% increase in food price inflation. And so that is a little bit worrying. It is not yet at an alarming rate because, you know, the general CPI is still within the benchmark area of the Reserve Bank. And we have seen particularly the main increase to food price inflation is being driven in particular by maize, which is, of course, seasonal in nature, depending on whether we get enough rains at the beginning of December. We did not get that rains at the beginning of December, but the rains at the end of December, January were very good. So we'll have to look and see what the next harvest would bring as to whether this will continue increasing or whether we could possibly see a bit of a decrease.
Mervyn, there are concerns that the latest VAT increase announcement of 0.5 percentage points effective from the 1st of May will make the cost of living that much more difficult for people. To what extent do you think the introduction of further zero-rated food products like some meats and tinned vegetables will go some way in helping to sort of ameliorate that?
So that's a really very complex areas. We've had a number of panels, government commissions looking at zero rating. And generally, potentially when we, as a textbook exercise, then of course it make price cheaper. But the reality is more often than not that these savings on VAT gets incorporated into the prices of these goods, these food products, before we see 6 months out. And then thereafter, it no longer has any effect. So households, in fact, they do their shopping purely based on affordability. How much money they've got in their pockets versus the prices of the goods they require. And in that sense, it should help from a textbook point of view. There could possibly be a saving of about 52 Rand based on our basket, but that's only possible if the producers and the retailers give through that saving to the consumer, and that saving in fact lasts for more than a year. Otherwise, it actually has no impact really in the long term.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts when the Finance Minister, Godongwana, announced that the Social Relief of Distress Grant would come to an end at the end of March 2026? I mean, if there's no other intervention in the meantime that's going to be announced for the end of March or the beginning of April 2026, what are the possible ramifications, do you think?
So that really is a major area of concern. Firstly, using VAT in order to raise revenue, we believe was not the best interest of the country because it makes everything more expensive and potentially could increase inflation. So it's bad for the economy, it is bad for households. The issue around the SRD grant is also extremely worrying because the SRD grant is in fact keeping a number of people alive. Unless we can get people into employment, and we're talking about creating something like, 10 million jobs within the next year, which I can't see happening. We're going to have to find another alternative of how we're going to help people with no income at all, through no fault of their own, because there just is no jobs to go to. So the Treasury will have to look at what it can do in order to replace that grant.
Mervyn, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and insights. That was Mervyn Abrams. He's a program coordinator at the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group.